We all have a lot of fear that we deal with in our life. A lot of stress comes from having these fears that we are holding on to. And there are triggers that bring us to this place of fear. And there is levers that we can use to totally shift the activities happening within the brain and short circuit these fear responses. In this video, I'm going to be sharing simple techniques that anyone can use to short circuit the biochemistry of fear. By the way, my name is Sanal and I love sharing wisdom with people around the world. And if you're into this kind of stuff, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. So, first thing that I want to share is what is really happening within the brain, the pathways within the brain when we are experiencing fear. So, let's just say there is a stimulus, something in the outside world that's coming through our eyes, or we hear something, so through our senses, and it first reaches the thalamus. So the thalamus acts like a relay station, and from the thalamus there is two ways it can go. Thalamus is part in the brain. I'm speaking about what happens. Stimulus is what's happening on the outside world. We see something and we feel fear. From there it goes. Impulses are going from the thalamus. There is an impulse going in two directions. There is one slow path, it goes to the cortex, and there is a fast path, this goes to the amygdala. When the impulse goes to the amygdala, usually it goes to the central nucleus of the amygdala. And when it goes to the central nucleus of the amygdala, it is an emotional part of the brain, but it doesn't store any emotion, it simply sends signals and impulses. So signals are sent from the central nucleus to the brainstem. The brainstem is where we have the fight or flight response. So when the impulse is gone from the central nucleus of the amygdala to the brainstem, it will amplify the physiological processes within the body. So that's why we immediately go into taking more deeper breaths. We go into more higher respiration rate, higher heart rate, and we start sweating, our palms start sweating. So all of these higher processes start happening as soon as the signal is sent from the central nucleus. It amplifies all the physiological process. So this is a more unconscious process. So we are not so much aware. This kind of just already takes on its own. And this amplifying of physiological response creates the freeze response, which in turn causes much of the trauma and everything that we go through in life. In those moments we get frozen, and this is exactly what's going on in that time. This is the natural response. So the way to get out of the cycle is when the signal reaches thalamus, from the stimulus, the signal reaches thalamus, and from the thalamus it goes to the basal nucleus. It goes to the basal nucleus of the amygdala instead of the central nucleus of the amygdala. So the thing is, when the impulse is going through the basal nucleus of amygdala, it never really reaches the brainstem. The information never really reaches the brainstem, so it doesn't go through the freeze response. Instead, it simply goes to the cortex. From the basal nucleus, the information or the impulse is sent directly to the cortex, which is our higher portion of the brain, which is responsible for analysis and thinking and decision making and all of this. So instead of we getting into a frozen mode, we get into higher processes. So we go into our memories of a similar scenario when this happened, and we assess our present scenario. and we make informed decision based on this comparison. So that's what we do. We go into productive mode. Our creativity start running. They literally have a lot of blood going into the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is responsible for decision making and analysis and processing and all of sense making, all of these things, meaning making, everything. So if we make a good meaning out of the situation, the chances are we are not going to be traumatized from that experience. Instead, if we just get into a frozen mode, then it just becomes like a traumatic experience. When people are feeling fear, the first thing that they can remember to do is unclench the jaw. Just unclenching the jaw already make shift within the breathing. You will start. It will also stimulate the vagus nerve, and also when the vagus nerve is stimulated, the oxygen is asked more from your body. So you literally start taking deeper breaths as soon as your vagus nerve is stimulated. And it's as easy as unclenching the jaw to just stimulate the vagus nerve and also not go into the freeze response. So as soon as you unclench the jaw, you also breathing changes and you will take deeper breaths. What you can do a 1 to 2 breathing, meaning if you're inhaling in a 3-second time window, you are exhaling in a 6-second time window. Your exhale is double of your inhale time. So doing that also stimulates the brainstem. So we are using levers, physiological levers, to literally reroute the pathway within the brain, so that it doesn't go to the central nucleus and then goes to the brainstem, and the amplification of the physiological responses leading to the freeze response and all of that doesn't happen. Instead, it just simply we are rerouting it to the basal nucleus of the amygdala, and from there it just simply goes to the higher cortical function. So you literally go into a completely different process. So you can start practicing more peripheral vision, meaning having more spatial awareness. Usually that also activates the brainstem and the prefrontal cortex at the same time, and also it dampens the amygdala, which is responsible for this whole amplification of the physiological process that leads to the freeze response. Also, you can literally close your eyes and see yourself moving through space. See yourself moving through space in all sort of angles and dimensions and all pathways imaginable. Just feel yourself moving through space. This literally also allows the switch from the central nucleus to the basal nucleus of the amygdala. It will allow that switch to be easily happen. It means that literally your brain is going to send a lot of blood to all the higher processes that allows you to holistically engage with the moment and respond to the moment, rather than getting frozen and that moment being a traumatizing moment of your life. Yeah. If someone has a certain fear, a certain scenario in their life that they are fearful about, what they can do is they can simply take a moment to just remember that event and let that fear just enough time spent with that, so that you can start getting a sense of that fear or sense of that feeling. And once you get a sense of that, now you can just forget about that whole thing and do this exercise where you just unclench the jaw and then you just relax your tongue. This will diminish the self-talk. It also is a satiation response, so it activates the parasympathetic system. So you can unclench the jaw and relax the tongue, and then take deep breaths in a ratio of 1:2, meaning Inhalation being 1, exhalation being 2, so double the time of the inhale. So you can do deep breathing for 2 minutes like that. So what this will allow is eliminate a lot of carbon dioxide within the system, and it will allow a lot of oxygen to come in, and oxygen to carbon dioxide ratio has that balance has to do with every state, every emotion that we find ourselves in. So you literally breathe out the carbon dioxide more and breathe in more oxygen, and it allows you to come more into a grounded place also. And then you can expand your peripheral vision by choosing an object in your vicinity, whatever it is. Just choose to let your eyes rest on that object of your choosing, and simply let your spatial awareness expand without moving your eyes from the object. Let your spatial awareness really expand to the sides, expand to the top, expand to the bottom, expand to the front, to the back, in all directions. Expand your spatial awareness. So doing that for another 2 minutes of it in a progression. And then you can allow your eyes to close, or if it is comfortable, you can even let your eyes be open, and then imagining yourself moving through the space. At this point, it should be really simple and effortless, because you just did the expanded spacious awareness peripheral vision exercise. So you literally feel yourself moving through space. So this movement, we are literally doing this exercise so that a lot of blood flows into that part of the brain responsible for movement. Because usually we go into a freeze response, so there is no movement. So we want to bring in a lot of blood. Blood is essentially information plus energy. That's what it stands for. So when a lot of blood flows into that area of movement, that's what we exactly want. So that's why we are doing this exercise of moving through space, imagining yourself or seeing yourself moving through space. I'll be doing a guided video for people to watch and follow through with it soon. I'll be piecing it all together so that it all flows together in one whole sequence. So subscribe to the channel and stay tuned in. Thanks for watching this video about fear and stress and how you can overcome these things in life.